AskReddit by Zephyr 565. What are you still salty about? When I was in high school, someone tagged up the school. They announced there would be a reward for anyone who rats anyone out. I get called in the office and find out I'm suspended for vandalization. I didn't do it and had no idea who. 4 days later I'm allowed to come back to school because they found who actually did it. I just got an apology. Public humiliation. Private apology. Me and some others in primary school were saying the biggest numbers we knew of. Everybody was saying like 100,000 and a million, and then I'm like a trillion. And they refused to believe it was a real number. On a 4th grade math test we had to make a shape that had only 4 sides, 1 set of parallel lines, and only 1 right angle. There were probably more requirements but I can't remember. I remember almost crying at my desk and spending 20 minutes on that one question while constantly telling my teacher that it wasn't possible, but according to her it was. And the next day we went over the answer key, and the answer had 2 right angles. Yo, I had something like this happen to me. We had a paper sheet with tons of math questions. One of them was impossible and the whole class knew it. We went up to our teacher and she said no questions. Next day we were reviewing it and she said it was impossible but still marked us all wrong. Edit. A lot of people were bugging me about punctuation, so I fixed it. When I was in high school, I was occasionally allowed to drive my family's 3rd car. It had a slow leak in one of the tires, so we were all supposed to check the pressure and put air in it if we needed to. I picked up a friend to go to a movie, and when we came out one tire was completely flat. It wasn't the one with the leak, so I put the spare on and drove home. I got absolute hell from my parents about it. How irresponsible I was to not check it. I'd have to pay for the repair. Why didn't I call roadside assistance, etc. Took it to get fixed. Repeat the whole lecture as we're dropping it off. And the tech who did it called my mom and told her he'd found a nail in the tire and there was no way I could have seen it coming. She refused to apologize and I still had to pay for it. That's not even bad parenting, that's just bad personing. Being charged $1,000 for a battery and alternator change. They also destroyed my starter motor in the process and rounded a bunch of my bolts. They left tools in the engine bay. I don't even have that car anymore and I'm still salty. Fuck you, Midas. 3 months ago I went on maternity leave. The woman hired to cover for me was being paid $3 more than I'm currently paid. She was going to be kept on as a full-time accounting assistant after I returned, but she couldn't keep up with my daily tasks and completely fucked up several databases that I had to correct when I returned to work the following month. When I asked for a raise, they offered me $0.50 after telling me how crucial I am to the structure of the company. Needless to say, I'm looking for a new job. Let that be a lesson. Never expect a respectable raise from the company you are currently in. If you want more money, think you deserve more money, etc. Go somewhere else. In 4th grade English class, EU, I've used the word gross in a random sentence we had to write. The teacher argued that it isn't a real word. I said that it is, that I saw it a few times in video games and movies, and she said that they aren't a reliable source. I said to her that I'm gonna show it in the dictionary, but she instead grabbed me by the arm and took me out of the classroom and locked the door. To this day I am still fuming about this. And then she had the nerve to be all chummy when I met her once in a supermarket. Gross. Edit. In both cases it was meant like disgusting, and I know there are even more meanings behind the word. I wonder if she knows by now. Fuck spez. 20 years ago I had 3 friends show up at my house, and when they left my wallet with $80 and it was missing. One of the guys felt bad and gave me $20 back. 3 years after that we are in the BK drive-thru and he whipped out my wallet. Still salty. His FB friend request has just been sitting there for like 2 years. Deleted. Came second in food tech competition. Made a lovely main course, then longs dechat biscuits with lemon posset for dessert. I made this dessert because the judges prior to this date told us don't make a cake for dessert. Guess what won first place? A fucking cake. Reminds me of the time my high school chamber orchestra participated in a music competition. We worked our tails off learning Shostakovich's Quartet No. 8, which, if you don't know it, is crazy hard to play, not least because it includes a certain musical dissonance that doesn't come naturally to people, and we seriously nailed it. We show up to the competition only to discover that nearly everybody else had chosen easier, more melodic pieces, with a solid third of them all playing Tchaikovsky's Serenade 4 strings. Not only did we not win any of the top spots, several of which went to people playing that damn Tchaikovsky, but our judges were writing notes about how the music sounded evil. Seriously, who marks down a chamber orchestra because you think the composer wrote evil music? Imbeciles. I was probably 5 years old visiting my mom at the hospital after she gave birth to my brother, and she was given food on a tray which she didn't want, so she gave it to me. I put the tray on the table, and as I was eating, the nurse takes the tray away from me and throws away the food. That may have my first true instance of anger in my life. I'm 27 now and I'm pissed as I'm writing this. Haha. What a waste of food. If it's any consolation, where I work, we just talk family to go ahead and eat if the patient doesn't want it, infectious diseases aside of course. Our wedding photographer left part of their lens cap on, so every photo was shrouded in a massive black ring. No good photos from the wedding. I found a bongo next to the trash at my old apartment, and it was a perfect time capsule of the 90s. It had Grateful Dead stickers, a smiley face holographic sticker, a pot leaf sticker, and Alien. I am telling you, if someone made this as a prop for a movie about the 90s, I would have told them that it's too on the nose. When I came home from work, the first thing my GF's friend said was "You're welcome," and I was like, what? She had peeled off all of the vintage stickers and now it was just a boring trash bongo. I'm still mad. Don't touch my shit. This hurt me the most in this thread. My copyright law teacher gave us a case for our pass or fail final exam. I solved the case. We needed to predict the outcome based on evidence, and he failed me. Later that day, I decided to look the case up, and turns out I was right. When I confronted him, he said the grade was already posted, and even though I was right, he wouldn't do anything about it. Had to retake the class. When my mom put my sister's name on my birthday cake. Later that night, I also walked in on my parents getting their freak on. Pretty horrible way to turn 13. Still angry. Did you grow up in a Judd Apatow movie? No lie, both things were shitty and I'm sorry they happened, but especially with both being the same birthday, and that birthday being 13. If I'd seen that in a movie, that would have been hilarious. When I was a freshman in college, my mom gave my car to my jailbird brother. Every time he got out, she'd scrape a bunch of stuff together for his fresh start, without ever running it by me. He showed up to my school, changed the battery for me, and then drove away in it. He didn't tell me his intentions beforehand, so it wasn't until then that I caught on. As he drove off, I called my mom and she just said, "I'll help you with a new one." He moved out of state with that car, wrecked it within weeks, and has since gone back to jail multiple times. Neither of them have given me a sincere apology to this day. That's why I tell young people, if the title to their car isn't in their name, then it isn't their car. Your parent can't give away your car. That my 6th grade teacher refused to believe I had no idea the dude sitting behind me was copying my answers on the test. This one hits home. Me and another kid in 6th grade both got 100% on our quiz, so our teacher figured we must have cheated. Both of us were perplexed. The quiz just wasn't that hard. But she was having none of it. I remember begging her in the hallway, literally sobbing, to not give me a 0 because I didn't fucking cheat, and I was a straight A student. She gave me the 0. I stopped caring about us on that very day. Edit, Mom. Did fight her, http:// imgur.com/gallery/r880hcl close bracket. I just didn't remember it. Still mad though. My father died in a very bad vehicle rollover a few years ago. I wasn't allowed near his vehicle in the tow yard until the cops finished their investigation. That took about 2 weeks. This entire time, the fuckwit owner of the yard was charging by the day from day one for storage of said vehicle even during the investigation. Was never allowed to thoroughly search his vehicle for lost heirlooms I believe the tow truck driver may have stolen. I was at a house party in college and we had to take off our shoes. Some bitch walked home in my leather knee-high boots and I've never gotten over it. Edit. For clarity, she left her dirty ass shoes behind for me to go home with, so thanks I guess you shoe thieving wrench. What did you do? Wait until everyone had left, saw what shoes were left and wore those? Or did you go home shoeless? Lol. When I was in high school, I entered a book quiz and one of the books I chose was Demon Thief by Darren Shan. During the quiz, I was asked what was the main characteristic of the demonitor summoned by the punk during the concert. I said it had 3 heads. Wrong. The answer was that it had a dyed mohawk. Except it was the punk that summoned it that had the mohawk, not the damned demonitor. I lost a point because the question setter could either not read, not write, or couldn't remember the book correctly. Coming second in a school trivia competition 21 years ago. I had the correct answers onto questions that would have sent us to the national champs and was vetoed by the other 3 shitheads on my team. That's a life lesson right there. Being right is almost never enough. You also have to be able to convince others that you're right. When my old boss pulled out the 2020 calendar in late 2019 and asked everyone what days off they need so we can plan ahead and around. Everyone was splitting off dates. I didn't have any plans yet so I didn't request anything until she specifically asked me if I wanted any dates off. I shrugged and asked for one day around my birthday because why not, and she started mocking me in front of everyone. It's just a 23rd birthday, why would you need that off? But ook, obviously rolling her eyes, then started treating me like an idiot the rest of the day. I'm honestly lost as to why you got mocked tbh. I missed out on recognition at my school's big academic assembly for arguably the most important academic results one gets in their schooling career, in my state in Australia, because the teacher I had sent my results to didn't pass on the news. It's been years and it still fills me with such exasperation. OMG, I am in the US and this just reminded me of when I was accepted to the National Honor Society at the end of my junior year, but no one fucking told me so I missed out being part of the induction ceremony at the end of the school year. At their first meeting during my senior year, some teacher was like, "Where's Madam Nerd? She is in this society too." My best friend was in that meeting and ran to get me when she heard that. So I was a part of it all year, but didn't get officially inducted until the end of my senior year, right before graduation, of course. I was so mad. A friend told me that they only hang out with me when all of their other options run dry. No longer a friend, I hope? Or at least, not the kind of friend you depend on? My sister got a brand new car for her 16th birthday. I got $20. That is bullshit. I would be salty AF. Some friends from work planned a get together at a local chain restaurant for my birthday. One of my co-workers found out and decided it should also be to celebrate her birthday because it's the day before mine. Already annoyed, but whatever. The night of the dinner, a friend bought us both slices of cheesecake and amp. They were presented with candles, and everyone sang happy birthday. At the end, she blew out her candle and then mine. And laughed about it. It was my candle. You were barely invited. I've never forgotten about it. The correct response there is to take the first bite of her cheesecake. Deleted. At an old job, there was a great Thai food place nearby. I ordered lunch there and on this day I ordered a second order for dinner which I planned to take home. Around 4 I go to get it from the fridge and is gone. I find it in the trash, basically all of it. This was not a day where the fridge was cleared, that was always Fridays, this was like a Tuesday. I never found out exactly who did it, but we had a small office, no more than 30 people. Based on my investigation, I concluded this: the company president stole my food from the fridge, but it was too spicy for him so he threw it away. Nobody saw him do it. And he'd never admitted to me, but it was the same dish as his typical order from there and, well, everyone else honestly would have just apologized and or bought me lunch another time. I had no recourse for this so I just moved on, but that's one of the worst guys I've ever worked for other reasons as well. When I was 10, I, the goody two shoes nerd, was sat in the back of the bus, next to the class troublemaker, because we had assigned seats, thanks to him. He took apart someone's science fair project that was being kept back there, and threw a piece out the window. When someone tattled on him, he blamed it on me, and since the teacher couldn't prove one way or another, they just punished both of us, despite 15 kids coming to my defense. Fuck schools and their fairness in discipline. All I got was one study hall. Kids today are getting bullied relentlessly because they know that standing up for themselves means getting suspended. When I was in junior high, the principal said during an anti-bullying assembly that they were going to try to stop bullying in the school. She didn't change anything about how bullying was handled, and that really made me mad because I was bullied constantly back then. My parents gave my mom's co-worker, who is my age, 25F, a down payment for her first home a couple years ago because my mom acquired a liking to her. The same year I needed emergency dental surgery, which was $5K. I was, still am, a single income living paycheck to paycheck and have not asked for money at all, not once. I have kept a steady job since 15. I moved out on my own at 19. They didn't help me out and I had nowhere to turn and ended up getting poor financial advice to put the cost of the surgery on a credit card. Took me 4 years to pay off. Still salty. Edit. Wow. Thanks for the support everyone. I do have to clarify that I don't begrudge my parents for not giving me money. I understand the reason why they did it to make sure I could be on my feet and make a big financial decision on my own. I just am salty at the way it played out when they could have handled the situation when I felt alone and out of control. What they do with their money regarding other people is not my business, it's not my money. I felt as if I had been given the cold shoulder. Wow. So sorry. I will never get how parents can do that. I'd be salty too. It was the 3rd grade. I said a joke. Made the popular kid laugh really hard but only he heard it. Made me feel great. Then he repeated the joke louder and literally the entire class and the teacher laughed. 3rd grade me was so mad. Edit. A lot of people are asking what the joke was. I think the teacher was talking about how there was a bunch of Caesars like Caesar Augustus, Julius Caesar. And I said and Caesar salad. Okay, yeah, it was lame but I was proud of myself for coming up with it. My delivery was perfect even. The popular kid was like, oh. And Caesar salad, and that's when the laughing commenced. It's funny to think that 3rd grade me was so distraught. I want to get high on Potter news. I worked at McDonald's in high school. I trained maybe half a dozen other people who started there after I did and was never promoted to crew trainer for that sweet $0.15 an hour raise. I wouldn't really be salty about it if they hadn't promoted 2 people I trained to crew trainer, and one of them again to manager. My brother eating the remainder of my birthday cake behind my back a couple of years ago. After the celebrations I put what was left in the freezer to have some other time as a nice treat. Birthday cake being a novelty. The fucker demolished every last bit of it. This wasn't just a little slice of cake left over, at least half of the cake remained until he got his mitts on it. Was absolutely fuming. Literally fucking same. I baked a cake for mom's birthday a couple of years ago and specifically hid my cake. One slice of cake that I made because I love baking and like tasting my own creations, and he saw the hidden cake and deduced that it must have been hidden for him, so he'll ask no questions and simply eat the cake since it must belong to him. Same thing happened to my leftover food this morning. I will always be pissed when people eat my food. In the 9th grade we studied about the American Revolution in history class. I'm not American, but it was in the curriculum, and at some point my teacher said, and so today the US flag has 54 stars, one for each state. I distinctly remember looking up from my desk, and very rudely and audibly saying yes, except there are 50 stars and 50 states. The teacher and I began arguing for a couple of minutes when I offered, in front of everyone, to literally just Google a picture of the flag and I'll just count the stars. Since the teacher was so sure there were 54, that's not a problem, I'd be publicly wrong. The teacher refused and insisted that she was right, and that's the end of it. I just got up and left the class. That was 10 years ago. And I'm still upset that a teacher could be that daft. I'd love to know of these 4 magical states she made up in her mind. My family had a PS1 when I was little and we had quite some games. Some of them are pretty expensive nowadays. Well, at some point the PS1 broke and my mom gave away all games. There is no point in keeping the games if you can't play them. Joke's on her. I bought a used PS1 about 2 years ago. Now I have to rebuy all games we had. Parents made us give our Nintendo to a cousin when we got our Sega. Had a ton of games. Pretty sure that cousin got a Sega shortly thereafter and we never saw the Nintendo again. Years ago a guy I worked with said he could guess the age of any girl in line. I pointed out the girl closest to us who was a tween and asked what's her age. He then called me a pedo for asking him to guess the age of a girl. Edit. I should note this job was at an amusement park where some people literally had the job of guessing ages, weights, heights. Sounds like the dude has some secrets to me. When I was young, I had a baby blanket that I was absolutely attached to. I was around 8, and a giant hole had formed in it, so I gave it to my stepmom to sew it back together. She threw it away instead. It was a baby Mickey Mouse blanket, a true gem for my era, and about the only thing I had left from my very shitty childhood. I'm still salty 20 years later. The fact that I spelled mayonnaise correctly in my 4th grade class spelling bee, but the teacher claimed I didn't and dismissed me. I had 1 in the 3rd grade, and proceeded to win in the 5th and 6th grades as well. The unfair disqualification in 4th grade ruined what would have been a 4-year streak. Edit. I am sorry so many of you have also experienced spelling bee injustice. Before I knew English I had a teacher tell me that my name is spelled with a Y when it's extremely obvious that it's spelled with an I. Of course I didn't know better, so I didn't say anything, but it seems really stupid that she thought that since she was born in Australia. I think my mom told me she was wrong, but to me it was her word against her word. They cancelled My Name Is Earl after telling the writers that it was definitely safe to end season 4 on a cliffhanger as they were going to make several more. Also still super salty over Flash Forward Utopia getting cancelled. Seems like half of the shows I get invested in are killed halfway through. Will never be able to enjoy My Name Is Earl again cause of that damn cliffhanger. Funny story though, caught my brother watching on season 2 or 3 and hinted at one point of the show he would be extremely pissed disappointed. 2 weeks later all I hear as I make lunch is what the fuck, he finally finished the show. My mum ate a candy I saved for after school. It happened 20 years ago. I'm still angry about how my big sister ate my lollipop when I was 7. Being told I was too good to promote at my old job. After learning a bunch of different skill sets, taking on countless extra shifts and taking care of things that weren't even in my job description, it was decided that it was more cost effective to keep me on the ground floor instead of hiring multiple people to replace me. The promotion instead went to a guy whose major skill was brown nosing. More mad at myself for not valuing networking and over relying on work ethic. Fastest way to kill employee loyalty. When I was in grade 7, a kid in grade 8 was being an annoying shit on the bus and teasing me as we were about to ride home after school. I shot an elastic band at him and it hit him somewhere below the waist. He ran off the bus holding his eye and found the vice principal, who then promptly suspended me from the bus for the trip home and the next day. I had to wait at school while they called my mother, who had to arrange for my aunt to pick me up on short notice. My mom also had me over an hour late for work the next morning so that she could drop me off at school. I remember my mom giving the VP an earful for the bullshit bus suspension. We went to a county school so most students including us relied on the bus service, and most parents worked in the city that was 30 minutes in the other direction. It was easily the most disruptive punishment for a working parent. So screw that kid, and screw that VP. Was doing an exercise in grade 5 science where there was a drawing of a forest with a bunch of different things in it and we had to mark what was biotic and abiotic, living and non-living. We had a substitute teacher in that day and she told me I was wrong for marking fire as non-living, because it needs oxygen otherwise it dies. Substitute teacher did me like this too, 2nd or 3rd grade categorizing food into protein, dairy, vegetables etc. I put eggs into protein. No, she said, eggs are dairy, this is wrong. Bitch, how much milk come in your eggs? In middle school, we had an assignment to list some homophones. One of my examples was weather and weather. When I got the assignment back, my teacher marked that as incorrect. I brought it to her attention as I assumed she made a mistake, but she told me that they weren't pronounced the same. I questioned how they were different and she pronounced weather like some fucking Stewie Griffin cool HWHIP type of bullshit. Still pissed about that 20+ years later. Every single time my brother stole money from me. The first time was when I was 13. I was saving for concert tickets and had the money in one of those cookie tins at the foot of my bed. By July I had about $60, but one day when I went to add a $5 to it all the big bills were gone. He was the only one who knew where the tin was and he denied it when I confronted him. My mom paid me back but it made me hyper aware of him. Over the years he would routinely raid my change jar. I kept the silver money separate from the pennies, and I had a lot of quarters because I would go to laundromat to wash the comforters. He'd go in and only take out all the quarters. I haven't voluntarily given him money in years. My teacher when I was like 8 made fun of me crying because he kept humiliating me in front of the rest of the class. He put a bucket under my head and said if you keep crying, you can almost fill the bucket while dead laughing. I just want to find this senile asshole and break his nose. It was the first humiliation of a big series. When I was 21, I was deeply self-conscious about my baldness and I wore a hat everywhere. A friend of mine thought I was worried over nothing, so he set me up on a date with a wonderful woman. Everything went well at first, but when the hat came off, she shrieked and sprinted to the bathroom. And that was that. Deleted. The fact that I have no clue where the remaining 2/3s of my wedding cake went after it was cut and served by the venue's catering staff. Being accused of stealing a teacher's wallet when I was in high school. The way the school handled it was disgusting. I was living in a dormitory at the time and the resident advisors allowed the teacher to confront me while I just got out of the shower and was standing there in a towel. Him threatening to call the police on me saying even if I didn't steal it, I know who did, which isn't true either. Then the school threatened that they had video footage of me at the local convenience store at an ATM, which got me excited because I know I didn't do it so surely video footage will clear my name. I asked to see the video and they then reversed face and said the VHS tape broke. WTF. Then they said someone called the principal anonymously at night and gave him my name. All these ridiculous scare tactics they tried to use on a 14-year-old while I was living away from home street. My parents objected to my sister marrying the guy who is now her husband. They treated her badly and showed up in a sour mood to her wedding. They never apologized for their bad behavior. My sister and her husband have been married for 8 years. Parents, if your adult daughter wants to do something you disagree with, then let her know you think it's a mistake, but when she makes a decision your job is to support her in that decision, not to repeatedly harp on her about it and make her hate you. Got fired from my dream job the day I got back from paternity leave. I made a big 10-page presentation of everything I was working on before I left too. Deleted.